All right, we setting up. We almost there. All right, we are here. We're there, gentlemen. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good evening.
We want to welcome our audience to Fatherhood Talks. This is the April 12th, 2022 edition. Topic of tonight is Papa, don't take no stuff. Papa, don't take no stuff. No mess. I know when I posted it on my Facebook today, I utilized that James Brown track in the back. And the first time I was able to do that, I was like, Papa, don't take no bounce. So I think that's tonight's show is gonna kind of go. We're gonna go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll get into a little bit of the topic tonight. Turn it over to you, Robert. Gene.
Gene Robert. 2 kids, 1 daughter, 1 son. One is 18, the other is 26.
Good afternoon. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a husband, father of 7, and so many other things, but I'll stop there and let the other panelists introduce themselves.
Donald Jones, divorcing father of 2, ages 12 and 11.
Justin Gibson. I got 4 kids, age 10, 7, 1.5, and about to be 3 months.
Okay. And I don't know if Jason is getting in there or not.
This is me. Sorry about that. Name is Jason. I have 5 beautiful children, 3 boys, 2 girls from 9 years old up to 15.
All right. Why did I know you were gonna say beautiful? Because
Hey, man.
I can hear, I almost said, I said, why'd you say, I was about to say it for you. He got 5 beautiful children. They're some good kids, man. They do the best. They love their daddy. I know that. Okay. I see we got our resident there, Rohan. Go ahead, brother. Take yourself on mute and introduce yourself.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Rohan Rodok. I'm a father of two young ladies. I take pride in empowering them the best I can, and all children that come in my path. And I'm glad to be associated with the Fatherhood Talks. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So I think that's everybody, and as you know, I am not our host. I'm just the facilitator to make sure everything goes, kind of like the behind the scenes, making sure everything runs and works the way Ron Osborne Williams. And I'm a father of 1 child, and I'm just glad that we can have another blessed day to come and be able to share with you and share with fathers and people and kind of really let you know what's happening on our end. All right, that being said, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's start with the first idea of this. When we said Papa don't don't take no don't mess around, don't take no mess. I think we were looking more in the idea of discipline. But I think that is more because most people probably seen it and said, well, what does that mean? And so I asked you guys, and for us to know what our show was going to be about, it was about this idea of discipline. And I think there's, me and Lana was having a conversation about this yesterday. So our brains, we got a lot of information already in the mix on discipline. So what I want to throw out to everybody, just, as much as you can think about, how would you and what do you describe sticks out in your mind, where you first learned and what discipline was and how it operated. So just in reference to, for you, where did that discipline, what occurred, how did it happen? When did you first learn what discipline was? I think let's start there.
I'll tell you, for myself, discipline, I learned that when I was in college. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people say discipline is what you do to your kids when it's a spanking and stuff like that. But discipline, the actual true meaning of discipline is to actually teach something. So when you have the piece of the spanking, you're actually doing the punishment. The punishment is not the discipline. It's a result of the lack of discipline or the lack of teaching. And then whatever you want to deal out as a punishment, whether it's, timeout, the actual spanking or things like that, that's totally separate. So, that's when I actually learned, because through my studies, what discipline actually was, and to understand the importance of discipline and the time you start to start to discipline and teach the children. And it's not even, a lot of people will think that it starts when they can understand or when they can speak, and that it actually starts a whole lot sooner. It starts in the womb, continues through those younger age, those first 5 years, carries on well into the early teens. And then when you actually are witnessing what your teachings are doing is when they get into those teenage years and go further on in life. And so that's when your discipline actually takes a hold, and you can see what it manifested from the time when they were younger.
Point taken. I'd like to add discipline. Ron, you like to say something, Ron? You want to go ahead?
No, I was just going to tell you, go ahead and go. Don't shy.
Super. Well, discipline is looked upon. Thank you, Menard. Well said. We have different cultures. We live in a world where we have different folks who look at discipline and punishment the wrong way. In my opinion, as a younger lad, I learned discipline was mainly punishment. As I get more mature, then I learned, of course, it's teaching. However, it is something that needs to be a word that needs to be told to many parents, especially in the parenting classes, where punishment and discipline is two separate scenarios. And unfortunately, what we see is more punishment being used on our children. And the most I would say at this point, if anyone here on the Fatherhood Talks, again, I'll reinforce what Bernard said. Discipline is teaching. The teacher helps you teach your child, and you as a parent are supposed to help the teacher teach your child. It's not a one-side effort to drop a kid to school and the teacher teach a child. The parent needs to do their role. So I'm on board with him on our discipline equals teaching.
Okay, great. I know we had Theon come. Theon, you want to introduce yourself really quick and tell about how many kids you have? I know you're driving, but I always don't want to miss a chance to get some words from you, my brother.
I appreciate it. Theon Eames, 2 boys, 15 and 13. this is a couple of years now we've been doing this stuff. But actually, I kind of follow up with a discipline. So what I realized, you can't be disciplined. In order to teach discipline, you need to be disciplined as well. I mean, I had a issue with some parents today at school, and I called her up because I said, your son is having issues right now, and he didn't have his medication, and she just went south with the whole conversation. I said, Mom, I'm trying to teach him skills right now that he can use when he doesn't have his medication, but you're screaming and yelling on the phone. So I think the lack of discipline is not necessarily always medication. The fact that Mom's not teaching it because she doesn't have any of her own.
Okay, all right. She might, she might be already so tired, as we talk about all the time, so worn down that she has did so much already. She don't cheat, And I say this, I think sometimes people have this idea that, don't make me seem like I'm weak. But listen, it's okay.
That's what I told her. I want him to learn skills because she's not getting medication until next week. I said, well, Mom, you can't be running on the class hitting other students. That's not acceptable behavior. Well, you guys need to handle that because he's at school right now. I said, I'm trying to handle it now to see what you do at home. Well, he did the same thing. I said, then we need to get skills for you too. Because in order for him not to, I said, if we don't learn discipline, there's a group of people outside these four walls that will teach that at any cost necessary, and they pay to show that we're disciplined. And they don't care. I said, if you're a Black male, they do it for fun. So I want him to learn this so nobody else has to do it for him. He gets to do it for himself.
Right.
And she ended up apologizing, coming up and, trying to make things better. But I'm like, I'm asking you a question because I need to get better. Because I need to learn about your son a little bit better so that we can get him better.
Right. And sometimes that even talks about, I think Lionel can speak to this when he come next, but we have to know that discipline is not singular, it's plural. Discipline goes all the way around the circle. The great example of that, Theon, is having the discipline to know that Mom is probably frustrated. So I'm gonna pull back, control, and then look for another way to finesse the situation.
Right.
Inside jokes. Look, go ahead, Lionel.
All right. So just to be accurate, I'm always disciplined enough to look up the word discipline. And so it says the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. Now, this is Webster's dictionary. My problem is this, and I'm talking about in the whole context of the definition. It says the practice of training people to obey rules. What do you do when the rules don't apply to you?
Right.
What do you do when the rules are not just to you? It's number one. Then you're going to have what they call, and then it says punishment to correct disobedience. And so when you have to find ways to make the rules treat you humane or just, you understand? I think just reading this definition alone, I already know that none of that applies to us, particularly as Black men. And people like, you playing the race card. I'm like, no, I'm playing the reality card. And so discipline can be so many universal nuances because trying to navigate that whole definition, which seems to have three explanations in one definition, you understand? And for us, it's always, and particularly for our children, it's always different. It's always, we're always trying to adjust to it. I was on a panel where the young lady was therapist, I respect her like a sister of mine, but she said, we just got to learn how to adjust. I'm like, no, we got to stop adjusting because it seems like the adjustment is always on our culture. And so at the end of the day, what do we really negotiate, right, when it comes to adjusting to the very discipline when they said a certain type of rule, because the definition always had also had rules and compasses into it, right, or a certain way of behavior. And even when we on our best behavior, you understand?
Right.
All right. The discipline is not even complimentary of our behavior. And so I think there's a civil disobedience that come along. And I think we should embrace that. You know, understand? Now, I think we should responsibly embrace it to learn how to distribute it. But I don't think we should be dormant. You understand, when we hear buzzwords like discipline and certain things that we're not looked upon as in society, just because certain stereotypes and other misnomers that keeps us being better than everybody but getting treated less.
Yeah. So let me just let you know, I have to go in here, butt in here, you know, keep looking at the, what's the thing called again, Rob, Gene? The
online YouTube.
Yeah, what's the genetics, the algorithm.
Algorithm.
So I'll just say to you guys, if you are watching right now, when you come on, please like, share, subscribe, so this can get out to people. We're only doing this so people can hear fathers really talk about issues, and it can help other fathers, it can help mothers, it can help people who are maybe even being substitute parents, on what the mindset is. So what's going on in fathers. You know, you hear people say, what are these guys thinking? What they doing? Well, here you got a diverse group of fathers with tackling those topics tonight. And we welcome you to join us. If you want us, go to the chat, put some chats and put some questions in. We're willing to discuss and have that dialogue with you, and hear what you have to say. So again, remember, please like, share, and subscribe to Fatherhood Talks. Even if you're watching it now on the replay 2 weeks later. But we want you to share as much as possible, because there's somebody, we know this. Every one of us know that how we became involved with this was that someone shared it with us. And that's how we're here. And we're still here because it is meaningful, it's important, it's impactful, and it keeps us being 24/7 dads. And so that's important. So again, I had to always put the little commercial in there to bring us into the commercial part. But let's get back to the talk. Let's get back to the conversation. So here we have this statement here, and I just wanted to tell you guys that our curriculum 24/7 Dad defines discipline comes from the word dispolis, and it means to teach and to guide. And that's powerful. I think it's very powerful because in comparison to that definition you gave, Brother Lightburn, that don't sound like the same kind of thing. It sounds a little bit set up to justify some of the things we see happening in our society. Not the teaching the guy. You know, you somebody do something, you want to get them under control, you teach them what the right thing is, and you continue to guide. And there's no part in here where we're talking about any punishment or keeping the rules. I remember being in band, and if anybody else was in band, and that's where I got most of I learned what discipline I had. That's where I learned my organized discipline. Let me say that first, because it's a different kind of disciplines. I had already knew my home discipline from some special items that we used to have in our home. So we already practiced those kind of disciplines. But later, I know some of y'all, we got the international fathers. So some of y'all know about a little bit of salt being thrown on the ground on your house, put a little salt on the ground and you kneel down. I know that sounds, some of y'all know about the wood paddle, some know about the leather hand, things of that was disciplined. But that wasn't that we learned that these were the things we didn't want. So we disciplined ourselves not to get them. And that doesn't mean that was right, but there's a better way to do it. And as the fathers we are today, we want to try to practice this new way to teach and guide our children first, then to go back. If there is a problem, there needs to be a consequence, looking at a suitable consequence if we continue to teach and guide. But I think that teaching and guiding is something that we do from the day that our children are born to the day they maybe put us in the grave. So I think that's an important factor. So when we think about that, one of the big things that come out of that, I think for us, is the idea of morals and values. And I think very often we don't think about how the morals and values play a game, whereas our morals are the rules for the habits of good or right behavior. They tell us what is right and wrong, our morals. And so we are sometimes disciplined around our morals. And then reference to our values. Values is what someone thinks is important or has worth. So these two words come into play into this idea of discipline. What do you guys think about that?
I think when you're talking about morals and values, and just referring to Rohan a little early when he made a statement that brought this up also, you have to be consistent. You have to make sure that the values you're trying to instill are the values you're actually showing. A lot of times you have parents, and guilty of myself, of teaching kids to do what I say, don't do what I do. But kids watch and mimic all your actions. They pay attention to what you do, and that's what they mimic. Oftentimes you're going to struggle if what you're telling them to do contradicts by the actions that you're actually taking. And so it's going to be a struggle, because they're going to watch you do something, mimic those actions, and then you're going to get upset with them because you're saying, I didn't tell you to do this. But all the time, what you're showing them is that habit. So when we start to look at our values and our belief systems, we have to really, it starts with us, and it then extends itself to the child that we're teaching. And it has to have a consistent message from us to the child, not only by our words, but by our actions, and also by our consistency. So if we say something, we have to mean it, and we have to live it, and we have to believe it in order for you to get that message across and truly teach a child on what it is that you want them to do and how you want them to develop. Because that's one of the most important keys, is that consistency and being true to what you're saying.
Right on, Bernard. Just to add to that, I remember a couple of months ago, well, a while back, we had a father who said, I keep on telling the child to put the trash bag in the trash bin. Why do I have to keep on telling the child over and over? I got to put a trash bag in the trash bin. And I clearly remember responding that you're teaching the child. If you have a child, let's say a child and a teenager, it's not a one-time shot. You just don't tell a child at age 12 to put the garbage bag in the bin. You may have to tell the child when the child is 15. You're sowing the seed. Some children are quick, some are not, but you're as you mentioned, Bernard, you have to be consistent, even with small items like that. Now, you mentioned value, morals and values, a very, very important part for everyone, every father in this world. Values shows your action and your intent. I think as a father, those needs to be established with your partner. It needs to be established with your child or your children. So, and again, as you said, reinforced, because let's be real, many of us have different values and morals. And that really shows the direction in where you want to go. So Ron, that's a very important point you just brought up, values and more. I believe it actually starts there. It starts right there with those two words.
Rohan, you said something, and I'm going to throw it in there. You said this idea that you gotta show them what they need to do. That's teaching and guiding. Tell the child to take out the trash is different from come here, son. Normally it'd be a son, but you might say, come here, daughter. Here, this is what I want you to do. And I know that right now because I'm working with my nephew, living with him right now, and I have to do that. I have to stop myself constantly from punishment. Constantly have to stop myself from thinking punishment to really guide him and teach him what he needs to do. Because it's an assumption that he's 13 years old, he know what to do. And he doesn't really know what to do. That's me being arrogant. That's me saying he should know what to do because I know what to do. And he should know what to do because I said, go take the trash out. You know, that you know, I need to show. So now I go and say, this what, here's the trash at this level. And then I go and show him even when I take the trash out and say, listen, you notice the trash is empty? Because I took it out already. Because as soon as I known it was high, I took it out. I didn't wait for it to overflow. And these are the kind of things of this teaching and guiding that we have to do, be disciplined as fathers and as mothers to do. You know, we got to be disciplined. Because you didn't say you're going to be on punishment. Because here go one of the biggest issues sometimes with the discipline. Because the discipline that we don't have in punishment. You can't watch TV. But then we cut the TV on. You know, listen, that joker gonna watch the TV just like you watching the TV. They're not gonna get, they're not hiding from the TV. So one of the biggest things that you have to do is say, if you're gonna punish them, a lot of times that means you gotta be ready to punish yourself. So be ready. And that's discipline. You want them to have discipline, you gotta also show that same type of discipline.
You know, right there, you said a mouthful, Ron. I'm sorry, Theon, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, you know, in education, we have the simple, I do, we do, and you do. Like they call it the gradual release. So like being a father, I do. So like from they were born or before they were born, I was setting the example from what I want them to be and what I want them to do. Then we do. So like same thing, like taking out garbage. What I realized when they were younger, I say do A, B, C, and D. And if I didn't show them specifically what to do, I'd get annoyed because they do it exactly like it was supposed to be done. So like taking out the garbage, they take the garbage out, they wouldn't place the bag like we just talked about earlier. And I'm like, yo, why wouldn't you finish that process? And I'm like, yo, my bad, know what, my fault. Let's do this from the beginning. We're gonna take the garbage out, take it out, we're gonna tie it up, go take it out, put in the big bin, come in, put the new back in, put the top back on the garbage. So, and we did that together several times. Okay, now it's you do. Listen, you older now, I need you to do that process by yourself. So the I do, we do, you do. That way you know what you're doing, you know what the expectation is, you know what I want you to do. And then when it goes back to morals and values, a lot of times, you know, everything is in the Bible. And I remember raising my boys up, we have like the Bible stories and so on. And like, okay, so in this situation, what are we gonna do? And sometimes the discipline part is, yo, I'm gonna show you grace right now. Because maybe it was a misunderstanding, so I'm gonna let you go for this one, but understand that this is what my expectation is for next time. Because the idea is to learn the behavior I want you to have. That doesn't mean I have to beat it into you. That means sometimes I need to go back over it with you because maybe I missed a step. And like I said, going back to the end of the we talked about using the Bible for that works very well with that. But also keep in mind, they use the Bible to also justify slavery.
Yeah, don't forget that part, right?
Yeah, so, don't want to forget that.
Yeah, now just to go back to the comment, I was going to say that, and Theon hit that on the head because I was going to tell you, you said a mouthful when you said, when you're punishing your child, you got to be ready to punish yourself. And that's because you have to show the consistency. If you don't want them to do an action, you can't then do the action in front of them and expect them to be, what do you call it, self-controlled. Especially if you have a little kid, there are some things that as parents with their little children, they demand so much, which is so unrealistic. And so you have to be able to give a realistic expectation to your child. The examples that you gave were great examples because we often tell them the end result that we want without explaining to them the steps to take to get there. And without the explanations on the steps to take to get there, they're going to do it the way they think in their mind is correct when we want it done our way. And if we want something done our way, we have to show them our way to do it, you know? And so that is the thing that we as parents have to truly remember when we're dealing with our kids is show them. And as simple as you may think it is, someone had to teach you first. You didn't wake up cleaning up your house. Someone told you to get up, clean the bathroom. I'm gonna show you what to use. I'm gonna show you how to do it. I'm gonna show you everything you need so you can get the job done successfully. And you are watching someone. Everything you learn, you're watching someone who's teaching it to you. And so that's the one thing as parents that we have to understand too, is that when we're doing it, we have to make sure that the kids are watching what we're doing so that they can then understand how to do it the way we want it done. You know, because oftentimes, you know, when I tell my son all the time, I'm like, yo, when you get older and you move to where you're going to move to, you're in your own house, you can do it your way. But if I'm going to show you the way I want it done, there's more than one right way to get it done. Yes. But, you know, I'm going to show you the way I know how to do it. And if you can figure out a different way and you're ready to do it your way, but you get the same result, then I'm good with that. But first, I'm going to have to teach you. And so that's a lot of times parents don't take the time to teach. Parents don't take the time to and be consistent and have some understanding, because, you know, one thing I like to remind everybody is you were once in that position yourself. And until you remember you were once a beginner yourself, you can't expect other people to be a pro at something it took you years to master.
Right. Right. Yeah. You know, you said something, Gene, and it made me immediately think about this. And I, you know, I thought we'd look at Lionel because I know Lionel is going to keep us honest in case we go into too much of the manosphere. So I thought about this, and we have to think about when we talk about discipline in relation to in our homes with our partners living in the home with them, and the discipline that we serve as being outside fathers, non-custodial fathers, non-residential fathers, because that discipline is probably more important than the residential fathers. Because a lot of times what we begin to find is that our discipline begins to play a game. You know, we got the discipline game that we start playing. And we have to be disciplined not to, you know, cause problems with our children's mothers, our co-parent, in a way that our discipline as parents fall to the wayside. Overall, our child isn't learning discipline because we too busy bickering and having problems with each other to really discipline a child. And I always heard this story. Children know how to weasel. They can, if they see an inch, they take a mile. They see a crack, they make it a crater. And so if we as the adults don't have ourselves agreed upon on what needs to happen and how it happens, most of the time we'll find our children falling through those cracks and those cracks that turn into craters.
Yeah, what kids search for is that chink in that armor. They're looking for that one weak spot. And oftentimes, if you don't have a united front as parents, they're going to find that weak spot even faster. I tell parents all the time, and I try to practice it all the time. When it comes to talking to your kids, teaching the kids, you guys have to have a united front. When it comes to the punishment, you guys have to have a united front. I don't care if you both don't agree in front of the child, disagree in private, and then allow that parent who sees the error of the ways to go on their own and say, you know what, I thought about it, and let me go ahead and lessen, what happened or how I handled the situation, and give them a chance. Because oftentimes you'll find that you have that one parent who will go and talk to the child alone. And they'll be like, I don't agree with what he did, or I don't agree with what she did. It's not right. And it puts the kid in a position where they're like, yeah, I got this one on my side no matter what I do. And it's going to be me and mom, or me and dad against the other. And so that's where you have that manipulation piece that a lot of people say, kids are manipulating. Nah, man, they're just understanding the environment that they're in. They're utilizing to the best of their interests. I mean, who doesn't do that? Who doesn't try to learn the environment and use it in their favor? So that's why it's important that as parents, whether you're living in the house together or you're living apart, you have to have a united front on what happens.
Did you say brother living in the park?
Living
She said
apart.
park. I was gonna say, God, the brother
Not
got to
apart.
live in the park.
Living within the
just the
same
couch,
household
man?
or living outside of the
What
household. You
happened
guys
to
have to have
just
united
on the
front.
couch?
You know, guys, Bernard, as you mentioned that I got divorced, that, you know, I want to say this to all fathers who are absent. And I called the child support agency today. And when I called it, I didn't get through. They have this long waiting system. And the reason I bring this up, one of the things they said on that child support, they said, whether you are the father, we can do a test. But they never mentioned you're the mother. So it just, when I had to, it's kind of a left field, but they just mentioned the father. On that child support voicemail, they just mentioned the father. They never mentioned whether you are the mother. It makes me think just the way how the system is. But to those absent fathers, let me say this, because I know many of them who give excuses. What happened to your child when your child have an issue with a manipulator and the child says, I want to go somewhere else. I don't like what's happening to me. Where would that child go? When you disappear as a father and you don't show no display, no teaching, and you say you pay the child support, where does that child go? Does the child run away to a boyfriend's house down the street? Does the child run away to some pedophile on the road? Again, whatever situation you're in, whatever, it's not easy, but again, advocate for your child, because whenever that child needs you, you need to be around. You need to be present in any way you can. You know, that, you know, we got to think about the end game, the consequences of, as Ron always says, after we've made choices. So I'm on board with him, Bernard. The discipline can be different, but we have to work to improve and empower the child.
Well, Ron, you guys spoke about morals and values. And I think for the most part, moral and values are subjective, right? So it's whatever you subscribe to. What you may think may be right for your household may not be right for mine. And again, we're all charting a course through different territories, be it culturally, be it sexually, be it class-wise or professionally. You understand? So, I mean, you have so many child-rearing philosophies and I like the really exciting ones. I think Al Capone had a really good one when he said that in his neighborhood, you can get further with a kind word and a gun than you can with a kind word. You understand? That's his moral and his values. And that's what he prided himself on. And so sometimes the greatest education can be just simple appreciation. And then you can have the most educated kid, but if he lacked that appreciation, you understand, he's still at zero. And so, I mean, most of us would know that. And I think that's what we ended at on that conversation, Ron, yesterday, where there was a lot of education and a lack of an appreciation, which kept our community stagnated for the last, for 53 years now. And then the only change that you actually, or that we received was gentrification. You understand? So what do you do with that? What do you do with people who claim to model in public, but when the practicalities or at the end of the day, the outcomes are different than their values and their morals? You understand? Mm-hmm. And so we put so many people in position of character, or at least we thought were of character, and your outcome was different. And then we as a community start to feel like the baby mamas, which makes me empathize more with women now, you understand, than I ever did as a man. Because I look at some of our leaders and politicians simply because they call themselves leaders and politicians. I think if you're going to truly be a leader, somebody else ought to refer to you as that, as opposed to you referring to yourself as. But since you're going to take that on, you understand, then you have to take the accountability that comes along with it. And so when I see the and you're gonna love that part because I'm gonna repeat it back to you again. The broken promises, the broken hearts, the broken hymens, and the broken water bags in our community. You understand? For the last 53 years, and then when you do get change, is a change that sold you out, and a change of your community, be it gentrification. Then I started to understand the totality of families, because families are just a nucleus of what sociology or social, just society is. And so they're just a nucleus or a small microcosm of what the total society is. And so I don't see family as a separate entity. And if you do see family as a separate entity and not see the bigger picture of society and how the role your family play in that particular society, then again, it's not going to benefit you any.
Interesting. Interesting.
You say interesting, Rohan?
Yeah, well, Lionel looks at the bigger picture. What's the goal? What's the narrative? And as he mentioned, we are all different values and different values and morals. I like how he put it. He opened up he looked outside the box.
Well, when you're looking at the value and belief systems, right, you're hoping that everyone is going to have the general belief and values of, treat everyone kindly, respect your elders, just those basics when we're talking about generality. So I get what Lightburn is saying, because, there are some families who aren't teaching their kids just the common decency to respect an elder. When you look inside the school systems now with these kids and how they are treating the teachers, I remember when I was growing up, let me walk up into a teacher's face and talk. Not only would I get knocked out by the teacher, but when they call home, I'm getting knocked out by my parents. You see what I'm saying? Whereas nowadays, that lack of teaching that respect. Now, I'm not trying to say, teachers should be knocking out the kids, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying I was taught to have respect for the authority figure, and it was backed up within the home. So I don't leave it starts at the home with how they raised me to respect my elders. It extends itself when I go into society and talk to elders, or what I consider to be elders at a young age. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So anyone who was, and nowadays, it's amazing how when I was growing up, we used to call everyone Mr. and Mrs. Now I see kids trying to call people by their first name as if we're all friends. It's like, no, they're not your friend. You better put a Mr. or Mrs. in front of their name. And that's how, that little value system is missing, because it takes away the idea of authority. Because if I'm calling all my friends by their first name and I see an adult walking down the street and I'm calling him by my first name, the same way I'm going to treat my friends, I'm going to treat that adult, because I don't have that what do you call that? That space between us of adult-child relationship. And so a lot of that is missing now in today's society, and that's what you have to start bringing back when it comes to the values. And I agree with Lightborn was saying when it comes to that aspect, because until you start teaching that at home, it's going to be missed a lot inside the school system. It's going to be missed a lot in public. So,
what I can just try to expound on that is because with the values, and I just never want to confuse respecting an adult with accepting one, right? Because I saw a lot of adults, right, that had reprehensible behavior, and more importantly, unacceptable behavior that I could just naturally pick up on to know that they were just full of bull, right? And so as a child, and you do have that innocent instinct that can pick up on bull right away, right? And so I understood quote unquote mentors who said, oh, you can be anything you want to be, et cetera, until you actually start to be it. Most importantly, until you start to believe it, because it ain't until you start to believe it, you start to challenging them on it. Then you go away, you get your education, you do everything they told you to do just to come back to have to fight them, right? To fight them for the position that you earned. You understand? You qualified yourself, and they've been there longer by seniority. So you have sensibility. You understand? And this usually happens a lot in our culture. Sensibility have to fight seniority too much in our society. And that's just not Black, that's just an American society, because at the end of the day, if you did more chasing girls than you did with mentoring boys. You understand? Then the outcome is going to be just like that. I can't respect that. You understand? And I'm going to call you on that, and I'm going to make you pay for that, because that's how you trained me to be. So whether your intentions was good or not, I'm going to imply good intention to your bad, good intelligence to your bad intention, ready or not. So it's not about so much, again, and we got to understand how to negotiate this, because you got to know the difference between respecting adults and when to accept what an adult says, not simply because they're an adult, to actually grow them and help them as well. Because we know we have a lot of, and I don't know if that just come with age, but certain things that we just, and we're talking about discipline, that as adult, we just refuse to change. We won't say, you know what, we may have could have done that better, but we're like, no, I did the best I can, and that's just the way it is. You understand? So it have to be, remember I told you we're going to evolve to the grave, and we have to be open to that evolution at all times.
Lonnie, you talk right into the place that, as you were talking, and I think that we have, as much as we, and I think we have as parents and as adults, as elders, we always come back to exactly what you said. What these young people doing, they need to follow what the directions, they need to do this, right?
Right.
But the problem that comes with that is the modeling that they are seeing to do that. Mm-hmm. So the modeling, one of the most important ways that parents teach morals and values to their kids, because they model them on purpose. They do the thing. So here and take example what you're saying. The person modeled for you what they want you to do and go out and get education, do this. But when they came back, they didn't model and they didn't have the discipline enough to say, I need to groom this brother, right, to be in the position that I am. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to let him just, I'm not going to act like he's going to try to take my position. Right. But the goal is that he would take your position, that you could go and be off in the sunny land.
Correct.
You can't do this forever. But again, you can't do that unless you have that, again, the discipline to teach that and want that for true. And we talking, I'm glad you said that, want it for true, because there is this modeling that we have to really see people do. And, people got to be able to really walk the talk.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people do a lot of talking. Mm-hmm. They'll talk you tomorrow, they'll talk you yesterday, they'll talk you next week. But when it comes down to saying, hey, you willing to stop going into that store and shopping? Oh, well, I got to eat this food though. Well, and then what does that show your kid though? What does that show your kid when you say, I don't like the way something's happening? Mm-hmm. I'm going to bitch and moan about it, but I ain't going to do nothing about it because I'm about to go get him this $30 for that plate again. Right. Because that food is delicious. What do you model to your child at that point? And then now you saying, okay, why you out here selling this dope? Well, because this is the way we make money. I ain't teach you that. Yes, you did. Because when you was supposed to make a stand on something, and it's not going to be the identical thing that you do, is the thing that they relate to what we do. So we have to be harder on ourselves. We need to be disciplined in ourselves. We need to, go ahead and give yourself the slap on the hand and recognize that if we want the best for our kids, we have to do the best. We have to be the best that we are. And that's sometimes different.
I want to make a comment. I didn't mean to cut you off, Ronald. Were you done?
Yeah.
You said so many things there. I want to tackle the first one where especially where Lightborn was saying how when they come back to society, we're not grooming them, and we're too worried about it. Well, it's a confidence thing, right? Because if you're confident in your skill, you're confident in your ability, you're confident that you're doing the job that no one else can do better than you, you're not worried about some young upstart coming in and taking that position from you. And I think that's one of the things when we look back, and that's one of the reasons why the grooming doesn't take place. It's the complacency of the person who you're coming back to get groomed from. I may have gotten the job because in the beginning, or the position, because in the beginning, I was gung-ho. Then I got myself comfortable and I settled. So now you as a gung-ho upstart coming up in here, you're going to show me out. So why am I going to allow you to show me out? I'm not going to teach you anything because I want to keep my comfortability. And I say this as any person, not just as a Black man, but as any person, you should never get comfortable in a place. You should always be looking to excel to the next step. So that way you can groom the person behind you to take up the mantle where you were, because you have somewhere else to be. And until we take that mentality that I have a next step to make, we're always going to stop the ones coming from behind, regardless on what we sent them out to do, because we don't want them to move us from our comfortable spot. And I think that's one of the things that we have to look at as Black men raising these young, these up and coming young Black men, in order to give them a better outlook and a better outcome for the future. Because just like you said, they're going to look at us, they're going to be hit by the wall, not only from white America, but it's worse when you get hit in a wall by your own people. So now you look at it and say, well, no one's for me. Everyone's against me. So let me go ahead and try to take the least path, the path of least resistance, which may end up leading you into the wrong direction, but at least I'm making it. And so that's one thing that one thing that you have to look at, and what struck me when you were saying what you were saying is the fact that you have to, when it comes to getting the grooming, it has to be from someone who's confident and knows that what I'm teaching you to do is not where I plan on being in the next 30 years. I plan on being done with this, and it's up to you to keep it going.
Interesting. In the way you say that, Bernard, maybe I'm off beat. We're talking maybe a job, maybe a father. Mentoring and coaching. I've heard those terms mentioned many times, and people ask me, what's the difference between mentoring and coaching? To some regard, they do cross path. Mentoring is what? Teaching someone to be in the position that I'm in. Coaching is teaching someone to do better, in my opinion, or to play towards a plan that's in place. You mentioned, Bernard, about 30 years from now it's going to be different. I see in today's society, ageism. Maybe it doesn't fit in this forum, but that's something that is growing, and we got to keep that in mind. And that's both for jobs and the saying that that's the old guy. He does things the old way. Things are changing. Things are not the way it used to be. Look at this. We're on Zoom right now. We used to meet in person, and I'm saying that as we make the changes, whether it's Zoom, whether it's different family dynamics, there's still those core values that goes across the board that cannot be changed. That those values will make you climb the ladder. So I just want to put that in there.
Okay. Well, remember I told you, and last night we ended on this too as well. I said the only problem I have, I'm talking about equitable problem within the generations that we are, is the fact that we have yet to really create systems for ourselves. We have more sayings than systems. Like number one saying, it takes a village. What is that? Do you understand? What happens when people call you on this stuff? And so you don't understand the science of what you're saying, then after a while you just look stupid. And so then you have other people quoting it takes a village. And I'm like, you had Hillary Clinton quoting it on her campaign trail. And then again, nobody never really challenged her on the science of it. And not that you should challenge her, because we never trained other people to be responsible, right, for our philosophies. And so until we understand the science of our philosophies, our spirituality, and our inheritance, then we talk about we always going back. I'm like, you don't have to go back for something you already lived. You need to go back and understand something you didn't know. That's the only reason I would ever go back for anything. If it's something or a thing that I already live or somebody else already lived, I don't want to go back to that. That's a waste of time for me. But anything that we can learn, you understand, that we didn't learn from back there, that's what we should do. And so I think one of the oldest churches in and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ron, one of the oldest Black churches in the country is the AME church, right? The thing about it is we have an AME church And it took my stepbrother to, and not that he put this together, but I had to put it together for myself, that he said that in order to move, and he just gave me a simple strategy. He said, in order for people, anybody to collectively move forward. Now, he was just talking individually as a family, right? You know, that microcosm. He said, you have to have three things: AME, acquisition, maintenance, and enhancement, right? Acquisition, maintenance, and enhancement, which is inclusive of every generation. Coincidentally, whether he knew what he was telling me or not, but the way he was telling me, I'm hearing what he's saying, but I'm understanding it historically different because I'm applying it to a broader movement. And so I understood that our ancestors from the Emancipation Proclamation backwards, they were the acquisition, right? They acquired the civilization for us to maintenance. So civil rights, not even civil rights, but emancipation backwards, that's the acquisition. Emancipation forward, that's the maintenance, right? And civil rights forward is actually the enhancement. And so when you see me, and I'm very indignant when we talk about the last 53 years living in our community, not just my community, but just every Black community across the board. And when we have more Black people in position and less property, that's a problem. That's a crisis. And I have to call anybody on that. So I'm like, listen, we're never going to criticize people at the bottom. You know why we're not going to do it? Because in order to criticize people at the bottom, you're going to provoke a criticism for people at the top when it comes to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, just no way in the world that we should have more positions and less property. Something is fundamentally dysfunctional about that. And so when we talk about families, the family, again, just a microcosm of a greater family. And Black people cannot be nothing but family in this particular society because the history, you understand, applies that to us. Sorry I went so long.
It's all right. It's a very valid point you brought up, Lionel. I'm on board with acquisition. Sometimes you don't want to follow the social norms, and I believe power and control, we as a group of African Americans need to learn to acquire. We need to learn the word that nobody likes to talk about, the B word, budgeting. And those things can be of great help to every male and female, that if you master that word, the B word, budgeting. We need to know the numbers. So I'm in 100% support of what you just mentioned: acquisition, maintenance, and enhancement. It's over there are other cultures that have done it and have done it well, and that is going to take extreme discipline to get to that level.
Right. And then we get back to that point about, when we get almost back to our topic, Papa don't take no stuff. It takes a discipline to put yourself in that place to do that. It takes the ability to, and I keep hearing this in the last couple of days, that you risk everything by standing for something. But what difference does it make if you, that goes in, if you take anything, you fall for it all. So the idea of being willing, the willingness to say, the discipline to say, no, that's not what's going to happen. And if I have to suffer, if my family have to suffer a little bit, we're going to do it the way that my morals and my values tell me that we're going to do it. Within measure. Because I'm gonna keep it clear, make sure the person's in the mental capacity, because sometimes we have to remember we say something, but sometimes people are not mentally stable to do some of those things. And so they saying, we're gonna stay here and we ain't gonna have no water, no electricity. We ain't gonna, listen, that's cool, because some of us lived without water and electricity before, but it wasn't for, it was because, maybe we didn't have to be able, had to wait on the payment to make the payment, and those kind of things. But with, anything that's not in danger of the family, I think that we want to think that you stand on that hill for. And it's hard to define. And I say this all the time. It's hard for people to define a father who stands on what his morals and values is for his family. And that's something that comes up a lot, especially now with all the different dynamics we have in the society today. You know, a father says, this ain't going to be him. And people telling him that you're not a good father if you don't. Well, I mean, listen, I'm like this. I can't say what somebody is or ain't because I'm too busy trying to work on me being the one I am. And that's a big thing. You know, not too much, you know, we ain't nobody got it all together that they got time to be evaluating other people. You know, maybe we can use our model of the example of what we're doing to kind of share, like, this is what I'm doing. But to spend the time to be able to analyze and break down somebody else's way of doing something, I don't think the average human really has the time for that. Not when they're really working on themselves and keeping themselves in a disciplined state. So I would definitely believe that.
But you know, I was sitting here thinking about how we see discipline different, because I look at Theon on here, right? Theon is a very intelligent, Black, strong looking individual, and he's a teacher. So he's a male teacher. He's an enigma, right? As a Black male teacher in a predominantly female profession, right? But he's in that particular profession with all the liabilities, spoken or unspoken liabilities against him. You understand? But as a child or as a student, I could learn so much from Theon, and it may not be necessarily what he's trying to teach me. Remember, we were talking about commanding respect and demanding respect. And so demanding respect is what you're saying. Commanding respect is the unwritten stuff, is what you're not saying that I'm learning from. So most times children in society can tell you more about what you didn't say and learn more from what you didn't say as opposed to what you did say. Most kids in society find what you don't say more cooler than what you did say. And I think I can end with this with I think it was the poet, I can't remember her name right now, the one who just passed away within a year or two. But she said, people don't remember how you people might not remember what you say, people may not remember how you treated them, but they will remember how you made them feel. I'm just paraphrasing. And so
was that Maya Angelou?
Maya Angelou, correct. Maya Angelou. And so with that, I said, no, that's 100% true. And so if you never said anything to me, again, it's not so much what you say, again, what you demand, but it's what your presence commanded that most children model themselves after. So there's so many young men in there and young women, students that's probably in Theon's school already chose from him a lot of things his presence or his mouth didn't say, but his presence actually commanded for them to want to be. And so again, children are very particular, and they pick and choose what they want to be, and it necessarily doesn't come out of your mouth, but more so out of your actions and your presence.
Yeah.
Somebody. I'm sorry. Who was that?
No, go ahead, Theo.
I was saying we were talking about somebody talking about taking over from them, like the next generation. Or you didn't want that. I always tell my sons, listen, you 2.0 me. Like, you should be a better man than your daddy at any expense. You're right between the entire family to be a better version of me.
I like that.
So you're supposed to take over and go. Like, you know, some guys, I feel like, you know, moms have issues with their daughters or fathers with their sons because it's a pride thing. But what's better for you than having your children excel far beyond you?
It's true. Theon, I like that word you mentioned, pride. I think as many fathers and many men, that's something I talk about many times. Sometimes you have to put your pride aside. Sometimes you got to put that ego aside. It really gets, the ego and pride can really choke a father in terms of teaching their children. Keep that in mind. Now, putting that aside don't mean you put it down forever, but sometimes you gotta get real with your children. You put the ego and pride down. If you gotta go to school and walk your child to school in the morning. Do what they gotta do. I said ladies do it. Some fathers do it, but sometimes gotta put that ego and pride down. I like that, yeah.
Is Ron trying to say something? You're muted, Ron.
Geez,
I seen him move his hand.
Oh snap! I said I'm gonna take the wheel and I'm gonna do a little turn and take us to another place in this last in our last 20 minutes because this topic that we picked here was Papa don't take no stuff, and we kind of talked a lot about the idea of this, we talked thus far about the discipline, how we need to understand discipline for ourselves to really teach discipline to our kids, some of the discipline, what it takes to have that kind of discipline to model for our kids and what have you. So let's go to another place of Papa don't take no stuff in. And I think this is, and I've been thinking a lot about this, is how men are men and being able to express that they are men. And that's a lot for fathers to do. And I'm saying men being men who are fathers and being able to express that they are that. And it being okay, because I feel in our society, there is this lack of knowing what fathers are and how they operate, especially Black fathers, that then people start making up what Black fathers should do, instead of asking us who are Black fathers what it is and how we do things. That if we may not address some things, but we may address another thing. There's reasons for that. Some things aren't that important. Some things aren't that, some things are not that petty to us. We look at what the stone cold hard long facts are about what we do address and what are those kind of issues. And then sometimes even in that, how we communicate and how that looks and how that gets sometimes convoluted with abuse, power and control, and other things like that. Because I think that's one of the, Papa don't take no mess. You hear that in your head, and what you think is he gonna slap somebody down, or he gonna handle this and do that. And that's a narrative that is not always the narrative, but we are still men who do things completely different than how you might think we should do. And so I want to throw that out to you guys, this about that narrative of how we should be as fathers, and what does it look like to be what we consider a soft father, a medium father, or a strong father. Does that have anything to play with it? And the play in how we look and how we talk and what we demand and what we don't demand.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a step back when Rohan was talking about coaching and a mentor, right? Fathers are mentors, bottom line. We're not coaches, we're nothing else but mentors. We're gonna guide you by the hand, we're gonna give you that blueprint so that you can avoid all the pitfalls that we had to get to where we were. We're gonna give you the easy, we're gonna try to do our best to give you an easy road to get to where we are, and like Theon said, surpass us. Because that's the whole point of being a father. That's the whole point of being a mentor. That's what it means to be there for your child, is to pour all you have into them and take them to the next level. Now, you have different types of fathers. Now, I think that, when you were saying, the different levels of fatherhood, I think whatever suits you and your personality is the type of father you're going to be. But Lightborn alluded to this earlier when he said that everybody's road is not going to be the same because everybody's different, right? Mm-hmm. So what my values and what I hold dear is not going to be something that he does, or Rohan or Theon or anybody else on here. But that's what I'm going to give you, and that's how I'm going to guide you to get to where I need you to be, because that's what's important. I think that you have to strip away the whole punishment piece of it when you're talking about fatherhood, because the whole point is to guide someone to success. You're not trying to beat them to success, not trying to submit them into being successful. You're trying to teach them to be successful. You're trying to guide them to that area. And so when you're talking about what it means to be, to me, what it means to be a father, it's putting all that other nonsense aside and taking the time out to actually teach, mentor, guide, support, and allow them to not only make them, make their own mistakes, because they're going to make their own mistakes, but be there to be like, you know what? I'm going to pick you back up and tell you again, put you on the right path, because this is where you need to be, because this is where you desire to be. A lot of times we have to also step back as fathers. I'm going a little long, I know that, but a lot of times we have to step a little back as fathers and not impart our goals and our wishes on where you should be in life versus what is it you want to do. Passion is something, right? Our passion is not our kids' passion. Let them find their passion and let us support that passion and let us teach them how to get to that passion. Although the road we took may not be exactly what's going to lead them to their passion, but as fathers, we have to adapt it and change it to fit their life so we can mentor them to lead them to what their passion is. And I'll just leave that there.
But hey, Gene, don't ever apologize for going too long. Listen, we're not in the Congress or the Senate. Every word that you're gonna say is gonna be valuable. I mean, you're not just filibustering. That last part was important. You apologize, and I'm going too long. Then you said some of the most important part of that whole thing. There is, remember that we got to have the discipline that we can't make our kids our clone, because that might not be their own. Your son may not want to play football. He might want to play clarinet in the band. He might want to be the best woodwind player in the whole country, and you done forced him to play football. And he's depressed about it.
Yeah.
So it is this thing of that's an important thing. That daddy gonna tell kids what to do and how to do it, but also you got to know what's best for your kids. And what's best for your kids ain't what's really best for you. I know you want to be up in the stands at the Florida State game saying, "That's my boy down there." Yes, that's my boy. But you could also be in the stands and say, "That's my boy over there. First chair, saxophone. First chair, woodwinds. Full scholarship for doctoral program in music design." Something of that nature, man. It's just.
Hey, Ron.
Yes.
I was saying, also don't let your pride get ahead of you. Like, my boys love basketball, but my people from the islands, I played soccer all my life. So when it came to them playing basketball, when they were small, I was playing basketball with them. It was cool. As they got a little bit bigger, I was like, you know what? I need to find somebody that is skilled in that if you really want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I can only take you but so far. So by the time they hit like 8 years old, I'm like, yo, you need to be somewhere else with somebody else doing this stuff. So, and it wasn't, some people be like, well, if I ain't playing it, they ain't playing it, or whatever it is. I'm like, no, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do.
That's a good.
My big one to play football the other day. He weighed 145 pounds. I was like, dude, you want to play football? You sure? So I was like, yo, I took one good hit. When I was in high school, I was like, I'm good. I'm a lover, not a fighter. He said, I want to play. It's not a problem. I'm going to support you. Yo, the dude last year was his first year playing. He had five punt returns for touchdowns with 60 yards or better. And I was like, oh, this might be your thing then. Let's run with that. I'm worried about him getting hurt sometime, but I'm like, yo, if that's your passion, go with it. I got you.
Right. And that's what you need. That's what our kids need. They need for us to be disciplined and not, run into ourselves and what we need, letting our own personal ego begin to affect our super ego because our id is telling us to do something.
You talking about discipline? One of the most, and I actually, it's very, I won't say very seldom, but it's certain things what people say to you, they say in passing or whatever the case may be, that sticks with you. I think when it comes to discipline, one of the most profound things I ever heard come out of the mouth of a man came out of TD Jake's mouth. Right at the time when I actually needed, because my children were still minors at the time, and I was still trying to figure it out, figure me out.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Yeah. Uh-oh. Somebody must have came and got him.
You want to leave us on a cliffhanger there?
Yeah, that's what happened.
You want to know what he was going to say? Tune in next week.
He was
Tune in
right
next
on
week.
the good part, and next thing you know, but that happens very often. It's technology. It give me the opportunity to go back into this commercial again as you're watching. Remember, this is Fatherhood Talks, a place where fathers come together to have conversation about real topics that affect fathers on a day-to-day basis. We look for ways and means to be able to kind of have these conversations, to really give us the insight, as well as learn and express what we know as the fathers that we are. So we definitely welcome fathers on to our tomorrow night. Tomorrow night always is our Wednesday night closed group setting to just fathers. We have this for everybody live person to see what we're talking about, but then we go into more confidential group with just the fathers in it on Wednesday night. So definitely want to put that in the chat. So if you are interested, you can definitely join on and connect with us tomorrow night at 6:30 on our closed private Zoom. I guess we lost Lionel. I guess Lionel might have lost electricity. I mean, you never know what's happened. Anybody else want to, just step in? I mean, again, remember, like, share, subscribe. Definitely more than anything, share. Because if you share with somebody, they'll watch it, and then maybe they'll say, "Oh, I want to learn," and they'll come back and watch some of our other segments. So definitely that. Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, so let me chime in because I'm just going back to the title of Papa Don't Take No Mess, and it brings me into the piece where, for me, when you talk about parenting and you're talking about children, it's important that the fathers are not looked at as the punishment figure. I'm going to say that way because oftentimes when kids do something wrong, it's always like, wait till I tell your dad, wait till your father comes home, wait. And so it changes the narrative of how a father should be looked at when it comes to dealing with the children. It's not that he can be caring. It's not that he can have a listening ear. It's that when he comes home, he's going to deal out some punishment to some people. And this is the role of the father. Well, that's not just the role of the father. For me, I had it where when that used to happen, and it was like, what's your dad going? And I stepped through the door, and they're like, well, guess what such and such did? This is what they did. And I would say, how did you handle it? And they'd be like, I just told them, wait till you get here. I said, well, you're out of luck because I ain't handling it, because I don't always want to be the feared person walking through the door. It's this, punishment is something that both of you guys can deal out. It's not a one-sided thing. There's no innocent parties when it comes to raising a child properly. Everyone should be guilty. You see what I'm saying? Everybody should be guilty of raising your child properly, not just one person.
That's right. That sounds good. That sounds good. Lana, Lana, do you still have the pinpoint? We tried to hold the point.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So one of the most prolific, because I always wanted to use that word, things I ever heard come out of a person's mouth. T.D. Jakes stated that, he said, and it made me think a long time. He said, we have to give our children the opportunity to create their own testimony. And when he said that, it brought me back to the tough love theory. And it changed the whole tough love theory for me to make me realize, remember I told you, it goes back to narrative. And I think sometimes we have to clarify and sometimes correct narratives, if not check it. And when we talk about Papa Don't Take No Mess, it's really getting down to the facts of the more of the facts of things than feeling. And sometimes feeling can convolute and confuse narratives. And so when he said that we have to give our children the opportunity to create their own testimonies, that simply said to me, what if your children don't turn out the way you wanted them to? See, because when we have to apply discipline, you understand? See, we like to apply it within our control. But what happened when the children are beyond our control? How does the discipline look then? And what happened when they're beyond your tough love? You understand? What does the love look like then? And what I found out, because I've watched, I just sit around and watch people. I observe people. I'm an only child, so that's what I do. So I saw people, I'm talking about good people, disciplined people. I'm talking about, you couldn't ask for better parents. And I watched their children go wayward, which means drift off into either being drug dealers or drug users or criminal, whatever the case may be. And it would seem like an indictment on the parents. But when you have a front row seat to know that they had decent, beyond disciplined parents, then what does that, you understand? What does that discipline look like now? How does that discipline really evolve? And what I had to find out is there's no real such thing as tough love. And I love Judge Mathis. There's no tough love because love is tough enough. You understand? And what I found out after looking at things and watching the way they handled that, because they were disciplined enough and loving their children, no matter through every decision, throughout every right decision and every wayward decision. And so when I think sometimes we can grow into a shell when our children don't become who they want to become, we want them to become, and we may even become embarrassed in certain situations. But I'm like, no, there's no one thing about love don't have embarrassments, nothing but empowerments. So you're going to have to evolve in every area of their embarrassment to try to transform. A real good parent will transform every embarrassment of their child into empowerment. Now, the question is, what does the discipline look like for that?
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's some stuff you got to work on. That don't just, you can't get that out of the Cracker Jack box. You know, that's what people want. I mean, everybody want the microwave stuff. Everything got to be microwave. But guess what? Microwave, you can put it in a microwave and give it to the kids fast. But when you got to cook the meal, you got to stand in front of the stove and the oven, and that takes time. And I use this. I'm using this a lot more often because I'm realizing how important that time is to spend with your family and do things with your family. As Gene was discussing this, the thing about becoming the bad guy because you are the discipline. It reminds me of a story about my own story when my daughter was young. She was a young girl. So I say that. say that pretty funny, but she was like 3 or 4 years old, really in pre-K, that daycare school, that daycare. And she must have did something wrong, or she must have been carrying on or whatever the day before. And I was coming out of, there was a program the next day, like a breakfast program, whatever. And I was going to go in town and come and surprise her. And allegedly, somebody must have said to her, had used the terminology so much that your daddy this, your daddy that, your daddy don't play, your daddy. So she had in her mind that daddy was and daddy is a serious person who don't play like everybody else. And that's true. And it should be true because there's a difference between how men deal with their children and everybody else. But when she seen me, she began to act like she seen Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers, and it was all I could believe. Is like, why is she acting like that? And then I found out is that she had been acting up the day before, and her mom said, well, your daddy, and then here I came. Little did she know I wasn't coming for any of that. I was coming to celebrate the breakfast and have a good time. And it turned into having a breakdown and scared and I want my mommy. I was like, I want to get the surprise hug and all this, and I'm in the point where it looks like I'm the abusive father, and I hadn't seen that in a minute. And so I think that we have to think about that, and we must be clear to say, I think Gene gave a great example. I'm not going to be the executioner. Sometimes I want to be the judge and the jury. Sometimes I want to be the defense attorney and the prosecution. But I don't always want to have to be the executioner or the punisher, because it changes the dynamics I have with my children, and they see me as that. And that's not the narrative I want. Now, don't get it wrong. Don't play with me, boy. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Around me. But that's not all of me. And there's a reason why that's not all of me. So I throw that out there as we come up on the end. I want to give everybody an opportunity to say any final things for tonight's show. Anything you got going on you want to share with people maybe this week they might want to check out. So we'll start with you, Gene.
Well, if you don't mind, I want to make a comment on Lightborn, what he was saying. I think what discipline looks like in that situation is not being afraid to ask for help. Theon alluded to that also. You've reached a point where you can't do it. It's a matter of being able to say, you know what, I need help. Let me go ask for help. Let me get some extended help to increase, the outcome, to increase the probability, to build my village, like you were saying earlier. And that's what it's all about. It's about being able to recognize where you fall short and where someone else can probably take up the mantle and help you become better than what you were before. So I just want to leave on that note. I think it's important to, just know where you end and where someone else can be of a benefit. All right.
Yep. I like that. I like to add to all fathers. Ron mentioned the Fatherhood Talks, the Fatherhood program on Wednesdays where we discuss issues. We discuss issues that most fathers face, and we have a dynamic, different groups of fathers here, different cultures, different mindset. And come on to the program. It's Wednesday night at 6:30. And if you have Zoom, you can use your phone while you're driving. Well, drive safely, of course. Let's come on and ask some questions. We are here to empower you. There are other groups like 211. 211 is all over the United States. They're also advocates for children. There is many means necessary. There's many outlets necessary to help you grow, to help your children grow, to help your family grow. In Fatherhood Talks, we keep it real. And as Ron said, join us. Here you get the plain truth. Whether it's different culture, we're going to keep it real with you to help you empower your children.
All right, Rohan, thank you.
Hey, Ron, also don't forget next week, Tuesday, we want to get that support. My wife and I are going to be hosting a co-parenting segment, same time next week. So we want to try to take this traffic and bring it over on that way. It's a town hall. And so if you have a female significant other, spouse, or whatever the case may be, it'd be good. You guys can come on together. That way, as my wife and I discuss that particular co-parenting topic, then we can have that equal playing field as it pertains to parenting. Because again, it's not co-parenting and then we're male dominated, but we're going to be talking about co-parenting as fathers. So you get to bring that significant other, even especially ones that challenge you. And so we can have a more balanced consensus. So that's going to be next Tuesday. And I'm going to forward you the link for that, and the topic and all that is called Co-Parenting Like a Boss. Because that's a young people thing, like a boss. I had to make it hip. And we're going to have the acronym for that and everything up, and you should have it by the end of the week so you can share it with the team. And then you guys, again, it's an open forum. So it's just like this, but just about everybody will be able to chime in. So it wouldn't be really one-sided, but my wife and I will guide the conversation and then build the conversation with everybody that's involved.
So Lionel,
What time?
as we talked about this before, yeah, what I want to try to say is, and I know Gene is thinking about it, that's why he jumped in. How can we simultaneously cast that for our, where are you casting that conversation, or is that conversation going to be alive?
It's going to actually be a Zoom conversation, but it's going to be through the Miami-Dade Fatherhood Task Force, and they have a week long of fatherhood engagement that they're going to be doing, and we just so happen to be hosting that particular workshop. But yeah, you can share it any way you want to because they encourage the buy-in.
All right. So what we're going to do over here is that what we'll do is we'll just push our topic for next week up, and what we'll end up doing is, I think I already did that on the schedule on the app. Absolutely. And what I'll do is when we come on, I believe I can be able to do is I'll be able to then take the link, I'll share. There's something I should be able to do where I could copy the link or what happens.
Yeah, you can, because you're doing it a Zoom link anyway, and this is just going to be another Zoom link. So what you would do, I think, is just replace the Zoom link, but it should still show up the same way with the same mechanism.
All right, and I'll make a title for it and do it, and that'll be our Fatherhood Talks session for next week. So that's fine. I'll work on that, have that together. All right. So again, that's what time is that? I think Gene was asking what time was it going to be at?
Same time we on 7 o'clock. 7, yeah.
7 o'clock. Okay, good. 7 o'clock. So what one of the things we want to try to do is I'll have that link and all that, get everybody so we can get over there to support our brother Lightburn. And again, this is the opportunity to my guys down there in the goulashes, down there in the bottoms. Call your lady friends, get your wives, your significant others, say that, I know you're tired of hearing me talk. We're going to go talk together tonight. And that's how we sometimes have to do it. And that's important. All right. Theon, you have anything you want to say? Okay, Theon. Jason?
No, I'm here. Give a brother a minute. Sorry, I was doing some work at the same time. I actually do a father all pro dads at my school. So if anybody lives in the Hollywood area and goes to school down south in that area, it's every second Saturday. So for the scholars and their dads to come out and spend some time together.
Where is it? Tell them exactly where that is. Tell them exactly where
Bethune Elementary. Bethune Elementary. It's in Hollywood, off of Sterling and I-95, and it's every second Saturday.
Yeah, and in the neighborhood of Liberia. In the neighborhood of
Liberia.
In Liberia.
Right. Yeah. So we come out, you have breakfast, then we do a little, they have different topics every month: optimism, respect, responsibility, stuff like that, confidence. And they do a little activity with the kids, and then eat breakfast, do the activity, and then the dads have a little time together as the kids go outside and play together.
Okay.
Hey, Theon, you have a flyer for that?
Yes, actually I do. When I printed the one for next month, I'll send it through.
Okay.
I even put it. I put it in the band app, and then once we have it there, we can share it as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, great.
All right.
All right. No problem. Jason, anything you want to say? Justin, anything you want to say? Elder Thomas, anything you guys want to say before we get up out of it?
Oh no, just thank you everybody. It was definitely enlightening, and I'll take a lot of what everyone spoke about. I'll take it with me, put some things into practice, filter out what's good for me, what I can use, and definitely continue to make it happen. Being a 24/7 dad and not taking no mess. That's it.
Right. I can always depend on a good one from Jason. Justin. All right. Elder Thomas. All right. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and close us out. Gentlemen, if you repeat after me, we're going to say our chant and get on up out of here. Open up those mics and say, I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a
I
man
am
of
a man of
honor.
honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I
I
am a
am
man
a
of
man of
respect.
respect.
I said that I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We
We
are
are
championship
fathers.
All right, gentlemen. Again, folks, if you want to join us again next week we will be having a live simulcast, and we will be sharing that on the page. So we won't be here in the Fatherhood Talks forum, but we will be having a talk that can benefit you and your significant other, and other couples all the way around. Remember again, like, share, subscribe, or you can dislike. And if you dislike, tell us the reason why you dislike, and so we can work on that, because we're not here thinking that everything we do is right and that we know everything. We're looking for you to come join us to school us the right way. Until then, next week we'll see you. Remember, fathers, you are a championship father, so live up to that 24/7 dad way. Good night.
Yes, sir. Good night.
Good night, fathers.
Night, gentlemen.